Welcome to Cinema 5D on the Go. Moving conversations about moving images with filmmakers and industry leaders. Brought to you by Hedge for Mac, Rode Microphones, G Technology, and Zachtle, in association with Ford. This is your host, Nino Leitner.
All right, welcome to this episode of On the Go. In my car this time is Ollie from Korro, post-production specialist based in the UK.
Thank you, hello.
Is it post-production specialist?
Yeah, well, it's actually a production company. So, we film, do a lot of post. I mean, personally, my skill set is post. Mm-hmm. I've been shooting for 18 years, but I mainly focus my energies on editing and colouring at the moment. But I've been running a film production company, Korro, for about 8 years now. Cool. I'm doing a whole variety of stuff.
Awesome. Behind me is Paul from Hedge for Mac.
Hi there.
A new, how would you say, a transfer management software?
Yeah, it's an offload app.
Yep. And next to him is a kind of a regular guest now to On the Couch, now On the Go. It's Greg Crosby from G Technology.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So we were thinking of doing a show that is focused around post-production talk. So I'm very interested to hear from Ollie what you think the current state of the industry is in terms of, what's possible now with post-production is a lot more than what used to be possible, and how much the storage and the whole media management side has increased over the past few years in your work. And
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, the big thing is it seems like an old problem, but I guess it's going to be an eternal problem, is speed and storage capacity, but specifically on the go.
I see what you did there.
Obviously, you're in the studio for a proportion of your work, particularly with colouring, it's still very much a suite-based process. But for me, there's a lot of work that I still squeeze in on train journeys, and I want to be able to hook up a drive and just rinse as much speed out of it as possible. Particularly, I edit an awful lot of 4K multicam stuff, or seem to have been.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, and I do that.
Who needs that? I mean,
I do.
I know the industry doesn't like to hear that, but
yeah, I mean, for example, I did a documentary earlier this year. We shot, it's obviously a lot of interviews, a lot of B-roll. All of the interviews were shot two camera. I think you're the same. We always do at least two cameras for interviews. Yeah. I shoot everything 4K just because I can. And I don't know. It's got to the point where I just
don't.
Not
a good reason, is it?
Yeah. Well, I just kind of don't bother anymore thinking about it. I just. Yeah. It's that future-proofing element, I think. It's I'm now at the point where I'd actually be a bit fearful that a client might say to me in a year's time, oh, can we have a 4K version? So I just do it. I mean, I've got clients like Apple and people who I know are going to want that highest quality content, even if they're not delivering it right now. So I shoot a lot of multicam 4K interviews, for example, and I edit those natively on my MacBook Pro. And for me, often the bottleneck is that speed of the connection to the storage. At the moment, I'm still relying on USB 3 with SSD caddies, which are okay, but I think for me, the big thing for me is I'm really excited about USB-C being the new connectivity standard for Thunderbolt 3, because Thunderbolt's great, but it's been hamstrung by the display port, micro mini display port connection that it's been using for the last few years.
Are you excited about this being your only plug on your MacBook?
Well, I don't edit on a MacBook. I edit on a MacBook Pro, which is designed for pros. So hopefully, I mean, we never know with Apple, do we, these days? But they're not going to. I'm sure they're not going to give us one USB-C port on a MacBook Pro. Famous last words. Yeah. We'll see in a few weeks. Oh, I shouldn't say that. We'll see soon. We'll see soon. I don't know. I mean, you guys must want to shift things really quickly as often as possible. And there's never really a time when you're happy to just take your time transferring stuff, I guess. I mean,
never the time.
It's like having lots of money. You think when I've got lots of money, I'll have all this stuff, but then you earn lots of money and you're still spending it. And you're still like, when's there enough? You know, it's the same with like transfer speeds for drives. There's
I've never been in that situation. What are you talking about?
I'm just, I'm just guessing what it must be like to be so wealthy.
Is there something we don't know, Ollie?
Well, like every rich person I've ever met's been really stingy, and
you like an aristocratic British person?
Oh yeah, well obviously I'm English, so I live in a castle in the countryside. Yeah, but you know, there's never enough, is there? You want the maximum throughput you can possibly get. I don't know. I mean, or correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we totally agree with that. I mean, you know, obviously time is money, especially for people that, you know, are in the professional industries and they want to save their time because they'd rather be going and doing other things, right? Either shooting or having a beer or spending time with family, right? So I mean, we are also obviously excited from a storage standpoint of faster interface technology. You know, Thunderbolt 2 has actually been a really strong interface. I know obviously there's costs associated with that, right? But you know, for G technology specifically, we've already, you know, embraced Thunderbolt 2. We have solutions that are in development right now with Thunderbolt 3 and the Type-C interface. We already have USB Type-C products out there in the market, and we're really just trying to enable what you guys need from both not only post-production but also from a production standpoint, you know, too. So.
Paul, where do you come from? What's your backstory before you started? You know, are you a developer or?
No, not at all. I come from audio. I've been a touring sound engineer for about 10 years, and then made a move into mastering of music and becoming an acoustician. And as such, I was asked to help out a Dutch documentary, which was a 15 multicam 5D production because of the format. But they needed an overnight workflow into Avid for that, and it was like 60 TB a day of data. And after one day, I just started pulling out my hair and started scripting to make my life easier, or not even easier, doable. In that 3-week period. And we did that for 4 years, and over the years we built this whole workflow, and then we just decided, well, maybe we should build this into a Mac app. And we found some investors, and then we built full-time for a year, and then half a year ago we launched our first version of Hedge.
So you're still active as a sound person?
No, don't have the time for that. No. I do have a mastering studio still, but someone else is using it. I don't have time.
So you guys, just a bit of backstory, you guys sent us like I think a beta version of your transfer management software, and I liked it. I was excited about it because I've actually been telling Greg for years that I think, you know, you guys should bundle something like that with the drives, because I think there's nothing really. I mean, there's a few solutions out there that everybody uses, but I don't think, you know, some of them are way too complex for the average user. Like, it's really DIT level, and some other stuff could be simpler, really, for, you know, like for the everyday.
Or they're
user.
buried away. Like the stuff in Resolve is great, but it's buried away. Most people don't know it's there.
Exactly, and it's something so essential, really, because I mean, you really want to have a checksum verification. You really want to have a backup on a second, third drive, which means if you don't use transfer management software, you basically do drive per drive, which takes a lot of time, and you just don't want to do it at the same time, because obviously, like, if you use the Finder, I don't know what it's like on the Windows, if it's any better, but if you use the Finder to transfer from the same source to 3 destinations at once, it will just completely, it's like a recipe for disaster, and, you know, like copy errors and all kinds of stuff. So I was surprised why something like a transfer management software couldn't be simpler and more available. So I like when I saw yours. It's so simple. I mean, it's like literally my mom could use it.
That was a design criterion for us.
Yeah.
Like, catering should be able to fill in as a data handler. It really is. But we designed it with UX in mind, and we even scrutinize on new features if it doesn't fit in that interface.
Okay.
So we could just skip the feature.
Yeah.
So it should be that easy to use, because it's on set. You don't have the time. There's a lot of pressure. And it's going to be very error prone if you're going to do it by hand, or need a lot of buttons, or got to change between different offloads.
Yeah.
So it should be kind of a set forget process to make things a lot easier for everyone.
I think the other big thing, and this is something I come up against all the time, is there's still this, it's really prevalent with users where they will drill down into card structures and pick out individual, MP4s or MOVs or whatever, and they'll just copy those across, and they'll leave all the metadata behind, or they'll copy everything, but then, there's lots of invisible files and folders, of course, that particularly on Mac get hidden from the user. And I've been saying for years to people, use disk utility. I used to say years ago, and use tools that will create a bit-for-bit clone that will get all of the invisible files and folders, because you can get away with it. I think partly Adobe is slightly responsible for this, because they've done such a good job of allowing people to just chuck like bits of codecs and bits of card structures into Premiere, and like it's actually, people get a bit lazy. They don't bother actually thinking about that whole card archive with all of the structure that's involved with it. And so products that make that easy, I have to admit, I'm a Final Cut, Nino knows this, I'm a Final Cut 10 user.
Finally one next to me, yay! I think we're the only two in the world. Yeah.
No, we're definitely not. There's a feature in Final Cut 10 that lets you create camera archives. Really simply, it's on the import page. So you can just select your card, hit one button, and there you go, and it does that. Yeah, exactly. So it allows you to create that bit-for-bit copy that's everything in one place. Cool. But there's in other programs they've kind of tried to do that, and they've buried it. Like I said, in Resolve, it's only relatively been added that you can do this. Not many people know it's there. It's hidden away in the menus anyway. It's not obvious where it is. And I think there's a lot of confusion for people about how and why and if they should do it, and if they do know to do it, it's often quite a slow process that misses some key moments, key facts. And of course, if you step up to broadcast or features, that checksum is, you need it. You won't be accepted without it. So that's a key part of it, I think, isn't it?
Well, it's probably even more important, obviously, from the color side of things, right?
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Detail. Yeah, conforming back and knowing that you've got what you think you've got, because you're conforming. You ideally don't, and this is why I love working with R3D and quick machines. You don't have to do so much, but for a lot of people, still there's a lot of transcoding, reconnecting, editing it with one version, then coming back to the source material for the grade, and that's fine. But you need to know that you've delivered what you've delivered. Actually, I get more scared when I've been asked to do DIT work, because if you're not going to see past the production phase, there's far more of a. Some people will be like, "Oh, great," because I'll do my bit and then I'll be gone by the time the hits the fan. But actually, that panics me more, because it's like, what if people find it easier to blame you because you're not there anymore? So I've had times where the colorist will be sat there like, "Well, the DIT's obviously not copied it across." Because I'm not there, I'm not in the room, I can't defend myself. And a checksum's godsend, because you can just email it to them. And yeah, I won't say what I don't want to say, but basically, there it is. It was copied, it's done. So
other people who often get the blame for, but they're not there anymore, are sound guys. Like,
I can't moan too much. It is often the sound guy, to be fair, isn't it?
Yeah. So Greg, you've brought out a few new products, right? At IBC.
Yep.
So what's going to make our life easier from now?
Well, and that's truly it, right? My whole goal and desire is to simplify the workflow. Hardware is not sexy, right? But it's an crucial part to all phases of workflow. And so, we've announced here at IBC some really great collaborations. One in particular was with our friends at Adamus, obviously, who are making that on-camera capture devices, as well as monitoring tools, and now with 4K HDR support, the data needs are obviously increasing. So we basically took their Adamus Master Caddy design and now build the media that goes inside of it, or we build a complete solution, actually.
I was always surprised that Adamus doesn't sell those caddies with drives in themselves, because I think it's a good decision on GTEC's part to actually sell them like that, because it's a bit of an annoying thing for users to buy it separately and then just screw it together and just hope it works, and then they have this list of SSDs and whatever on their website which works. And they also changed the design of the caddy ones.
Yep.
So you can't use the new ones and the old. So it's a bit of a.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm on Atomos's stand at IBC, and it wasn't until I arrived on day one and I saw your GTEC branded SSD drives for them. I didn't know that they existed.
Yeah.
And I took one
they're
look.
New, aren't they?
They must be very new. I was thinking maybe I'm behind the curve on this, but I looked at them on the stand. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. That is so cool. I was so excited to see, for exactly that reason. I've got a Shogun Flame, and of course the first thing I did was like, let's go and check, what's the fastest currently recommended drive that will work, and then you're on Amazon trying to find which one will do it, and I don't know what it is about Amazon and Samsung SSDs, but they're like, there's about 1,000 million different variations, and you're like, is that the right one?
Even like, it's like with memory cards, even with SSDs, like, it's not even, if you buy the same one twice, like 6 months apart, some work, some don't. It's like,
it's crazy.
Crazy, and then you are on set and it just stops recording, especially with the 4K stuff at some point.
Well, my instinct as a colorist was initially to go to the fastest one that I could find, and there's actually one that's recommended that's like a Japanese make, and I wasted 20 minutes trying to find out if I could buy it in the UK, and of course you can't. But and then I got to the show and saw your branded one, saw that you do a 4K branded, is it 540 megabytes per second?
Yeah, it's up to so we're using,
and I'm like, wow. And it's got a sexy metal caddy as well with the branding on it, which tickled me. I quite like that.
Well, and more importantly, it's now we also build the reader. Similar to what we did with Red, and the Red Mini Mag. Obviously, with the Adamus side of it, we also announced the CFast 2.0 reader as well. And kind of as I was saying, we want to simplify the workflow, and obviously storage is a huge component of that. To get high performance, higher capacity, data redundant storage. It's just a really great workflow and simplifies, how people are using storage in their workflow.
Greg, one thing that interests me personally, because I obviously haven't done a lot of work with you guys, but like, if I think about it, like, you have all these huge corporations like Facebook, Google, Apple, with all their cloud services and stuff. Is your mother company is HGST. Is that a big part of the business, like selling? I assume these guys would need millions and millions of hard drives all the time, right?
So storage is ever increasing, right? So as a company in a variety of different focuses, we cover everything from the consumer markets to big data centers in enterprises. And you mentioned a handful of people that may or may not use our products. I'm not saying that,
It's very diplomatic,
but very different, and that's one great thing about G Technology as a brand. We, at the end of last year, our company, which is actually our main parent company, acquired SanDisk, right? So we now have access to a lot of really great technology that we can integrate into the G Technology portfolio. That's going to really optimize how people are working with G Tech storage products.
Yeah, it's cool, because now also finally SSDs have a size where it's very, very feasible to get rid of hard drives in where you really need the speed and performance on set. Yeah,
I mean, we can offer 1 terabyte. The Adamus Master Caddy 4K by G Technology. 1 terabyte is $350, right? I mean, the prices have
come down quite a bit.
Have come down a bit, but it's a production tool, and to Ollie's point, right? Speed is crucial. Solid state can do that, but solid state, there are no high capacity solid state drives, where you're going to be able to store. We have a product that will be up to 80 terabytes of total storage capacity, right? You can't do that with all solid state drives. Right?
Not yet.
So you need that balance, right?
Yeah.
So. And I love the fact that your products, they fit into the bigger workflow through the EV, the dock, where you start to you can start to rack them up essentially and build up big, and those types of solutions. As I said right at the beginning, for me, where I can literally be editing or not grading per se, but certainly prepping stuff and doing stuff in Resolve on the train.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to be back in the studio at some point, and I'm going to just need raw capacity and storage speed. And I love that flexibility with your stuff.
Well, and that was just it, right? When we thought of, and Nino actually probably can attest to this, right? Because I've known Nino for a very long time. We wanted to build a complete ecosystem that allowed easily to go from production into post-production, right? And to have people standardize around that solution was key. Having the right capacity, the right performance, and then having it integrate with higher capacity storage was a big vision, that we had, and that's what we've basically created. And now we're just trying to get as close to the capture phase as possible, right?
Yeah.
Being with the cameras, and then obviously transfer software is a key component to that. Ensuring that the data is moving from all those various phases, and it's solid and intact. So,
Ollie, you've worked in this industry for how long?
Well, I first, it's a tricky one. I've kind of come into where I am through all kinds of weird kind of back doors, because essentially I was guided right from the outset as I didn't want to go straight into the broadcast machine. So I've been creating my own stuff, and I guess doing it commercially probably for 12 years. But
how has everything changed in this time, like specifically with regards to post-production and high-end post-production?
It's just night and day.
And what's
it's just crazy.
What's demanded? I mean, I just remember when I started out, it's like you really had to wait for, there was a lot of stuff you couldn't do because your computer was too slow, or the amount of storage you would need would have cost a crazy amount of money. And now it's like, even cheap, sometimes even the cheaper cameras create more data.
I think the big thing is, and I've seen this with a lot of partners that I work with, is education now. There's so much emphasis now on education and educating their users, which you just never had before. I think that's for me the biggest difference. You go back 10 years and it's just basically, here's the product, get on with it. There's very little support. There certainly wasn't any kind of resource base for how do you use this, how do you get the best out of it, not just press this button to turn it on, but workflow advice, and pretty much I work with Atomos, I work with people like Film Convert, X-Rite, they're all investing in money to get industry experts, users to actually show their customers how they use these products. And I think that's quite a major change, because you've essentially got a massive drop in price point. So these companies' user bases, they're plummeting in age and experience because they don't need so much money to get access to their tools. So there's this. It's actually really lovely. I think it's great. I absolutely think it's a positive, because there's loads of really interesting people now making stuff at a much younger age than they would have been. I mean, on Atomos' stand at IBC, I've been with Johnny Mass and Ed Comer of Abandoned Visuals, and they're 19 and 22. They're absolutely crazy good. They're making amazing stuff. But I was showing them just some simple color management stuff with the X-Rite color checker video and calibration stuff, and and Ed was like, I didn't know any of that. So there's this education side of it that we're kind of almost backfilling knowledge now. So it's really kind of inclusive. But I think there's an onus now on manufacturers to make their tools easy to use, as well as kind of accessible in terms of price point.
Cool. We were quite amazed that there wasn't a free way of doing verified data. So you couldn't educate students with verification unless they paid for it. So that's why we created a basic version of Hedge, so everybody can enjoy verified transfers, because it's a shame that you would be taught to use verification, but you're not in a situation to be able to do so.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. We're back at the Rye, back in the parking garage, and thanks for being my guest here. I'm happy I didn't kill you, and thanks everybody for watching, and see you on one of the next shows of On The Go. Thanks for watching.